This is the Neoliberal Around podcast.
Yes, Mr. McKenzie. Good to have you with us today. This is Renaldo McKenzie.
It's good to be here.
I won't tell you anything about him yet because he's going to tell us his the two things that are true of him and the one that is false, and mix them up so that yes. Over to you, Mr. McKenzie.
Hi, everyone. I think I have 30 minutes, you say?
Yes.
Okay, that's not bad. It's good to be at JTS. It's good to be back. I usually teach Caribbean thought, and but that's not what I want to tell you guys about me. I understand the first thing we're going to do today is get to know each other. So the first thing is two things that's true of me, one thing that's not true of me. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Okay. And I did. Okay. What is true of? Okay. Which of these is true, and which two are true? One is not. I was born in Ghana. I'm an identical twin. I studied philosophy at UWI. Who wants to get a shot at it?
You studied at UWI.
That's lie, or is that false or true? True or false?
That is the one lie.
Okay, and what's the true one? And the others are true. Anybody else?
I think you're from Ghana.
All right.
Maybe your twin is the wrong one. I'm gonna switch.
No, you can't switch.
Okay.
Let's take. You'll hear the answer because you're still not sure. And okay, what about Eric? Oh, there's Danielle. Danielle, are you there? Danielle Wells.
Yes, I'm here in the curtain.
Yeah. Okay. What's true and what's not true?
In terms of about you?
Yeah. Born in Ghana. I'm identical twin and studied philosophy at UWI.
Study philosophy at UWI.
What's that? Two are true, one is false. Which? Oh, you're saying that one is false.
Yes, that one is false.
All right. Anybody else? Well, I mean, I'm ready to give you the answers now.
All right, give us the answer.
Okay. I mean, Anil, you were gonna switch. What were you gonna say? What was this? Let me hear the switch.
All right, you are not a twin.
Okay.
You did study at the university, and you said you studied psychology.
I had said philosophy.
Philosophy. I think you studied philosophy.
So the false one is I'm not a twin. All right. Okay.
You know why? Because you said you taught Caribbean thoughts at JTS. So Caribbean thought and
I guess should not have said that. But okay, all right, but I'm ready to give it the answer. I am an identical twin. I have a twin brother, yes. So that is actually true. I did study philosophy at UWI. So that is true. What is false is I was not born in Ghana. So that's false. Yeah, so I was born in Jamaica. I currently reside in the US. And as I talk about what I'm going to be talking about today, you will hear some more about me, a little bit about me as well.
Before I go on to me, your accent,
Yes.
it has, is it an African accent or a Caribbean accent? Because there's a mixture of something in there.
From I was growing up in Jamaica, people have often asked my parents if we were born in Jamaica. I grew up in Jamaica. I did live like a year in Cayman Islands, or 2 years in Cayman Islands when I worked with the church. I was ordained with the United Church in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands as a pastor with the United Church. I worked in youth ministries for a long time, and I did some development work there. I did some work I did some youth ministry work in 2006 in Missouri, but I've never been to Africa. I'm hoping to go to Africa, but I guess it's a Caribbean mix. I don't know, but I was born in Jamaica. I left Jamaica and I did 1 or 2 travels throughout the Caribbean before I moved here permanently. But my accent is completely from Jamaica, and this is how I've always spoken. So, but people have always tried. Even when I'm here, someone asks if people are asking, "Are you Bayesian?" Some people don't think I'm really Jamaican either. They said you don't sound Jamaican, but I'm Jamaican. All right, I am.
Which state are you in?
Say that again.
State are you in?
I'm in Philadelphia. I currently reside in Philadelphia. When I came to the US, I was living in Jersey Shore, and then I relocated a year after that to Philadelphia because I got into a school into University of Penn, which is one of the 7 Ivy League colleges in the US, one of the top 6 schools in the US. So that's why I moved from Jersey to Philly because I
did.
Where are you now? Are you in the US right now?
I live in Colorado.
You are in Colorado. Okay. That's nice. Well, oh my God, I should have asked you what you should have done the same thing I did, but everybody else in the class said that okay, that's good. So you're in Colorado. I heard that there's a large Jamaican population. There's a lot of people Jamaican in Colorado. I've never been to Colorado. I want to go to Colorado, but I know that before I came to the US, I used to watch JBC TV and they would advertise this, what they call it, Easter bun. And they would like, clear up Colorado. I'm like, what? They have Colorado, Easter bun, and Colorado is a very cold place anyway. Why would Jamaicans want to go live in Colorado?
We have 3 army bases here. We have the Air Force, Space Force, the Navy, and not the Navy, but the Army.
Oh.
There's actually 4. So there's 4. I only can remember 3, but there's 4 military bases here.
Yes. I didn't go to Penn State. Penn State is a public university. My school is private. Penn State is not an Ivy League. It's not one of the top 6 schools in the U.S. University of Pennsylvania is that's where Donald Trump went to University of Penn. His kids went there. That's considered one of the top 6 schools in the country. But Penn State is a little bit different from there. But people often confuse Penn State with UPenn.
Is Harvard and Stanford?
Yes, it's part of that. Harvard, but not Stanford. Stanford is not an Ivy League, but it's a top school. It's Columbia, Princeton, Harvard, Yale, UPenn, Brown University, Columbia is part of those, and of course UPenn. UPenn is of the 7 Ivy League. UPenn would be considered one of it's in the top 4 or top 5, but yes. And how I got into that school is kind of weird, but I think I'm going to be talking about that a little bit because today I actually prepare a speech. It's entitled "The Power of General Studies: Preparing the Mind for a Complex World." I was trying to get it on a slide, but I never had enough time because I work with public health management. I help to coordinate a program here, and so on, and I kind of find it rewarding. I'm actually what is known as the opioid use disorder coordinator, and it's a novel program. It's relatively new. It helps to reduce recidivism for those who are affected by opiates or opioids. which including fentanyl, heroin, and so on. And the program is quite interesting because at the end of the program, then people's records are expunged, and we provide wraparound services, mental health. People who have dual diagnoses come into the program, and we provide housing and justice related services along with other services. And the program is incentivized. So that's part of my 9 to 5 outside of the fact that I run a business, writing several books, working on my PhD, and so on and so forth. But I want to talk about the power of general studies, preparing the mind for a complex world. And I wanted to begin before, before I continue, I need to hear from the other student, because I don't know, have you guys done Caribbean Thought yet? Do you plan to do Caribbean Thought?
I think it's on my schedule for next semester.
Okay, that's it. It's going to be taught in the summer. It's usually in January, February, March, and then also in the summer. But this time we decided. I'm happy that they scrapped it for this semester, because I was very ill and I would not have been available. But it's going to be in the summer, so hopefully I get to teach that course in the summer, and you guys will. I don't know. It's not. I don't think. I'm not sure if it's going to be offered after.
You forget.
Say it again.
I asked you to teach.
Okay. So I will be teaching in the summer, and then
Yes, you forgot.
right. So if you're going to do the course, then it's going to be in the summer. So hopefully you guys will be able to do it in the summertime. Okay.
We'll have it.
Yeah. Right.
Can repeat?
Okay. Where in Jamaica are you?
Yes. Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Where in Jamaica are
I'm
you?
actually in Kingston side, which is off the Deep Road area.
Okay.
Kingston side.
Kingston side. All right. I know I know that side definitely. And are you a first year, second year, third year student?
Can repeat?
Are you a first year, second year, or third year student?
Fourth.
Oh, you're graduating.
Last year, final year.
Wait, but you haven't done. Have you done Caribbean Thought? I don't think you've done Caribbean Thought yet. That's not a required subject for you.
It is. That's why we're doing it in the summer.
In the summer.
I would have done it already. No, I would have done that already. In terms of credits.
Okay. You did Caribbean Thought already? They gave you credit for that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. So you don't have to come to my class this summer. The Caribbean Thought this summer.
No.
Okay. I wonder why they give you. I wonder what you studied, how you got credit for Caribbean Thought. What did you do?
I was in Caribbean study, and also I did sociology. Yes, I've done that aspect as well.
No, but Caribbean Thought is not sociology. Caribbean Thought is interdisciplinary, and it provides a different approach to sociology. Sociology is very European. So the sociology that they teach you have nothing to do with Caribbean Thought. There's Caribbean sociology, but Caribbean goes beyond sociology. Thought looks at the currents that have come to formulate the Caribbean, and then sociology provides a European approach to understanding life in the Caribbean. The way we teach Caribbean Thought is completely different, and it provides an Afrocentric approach, one that takes into consideration the Afrocentric paradigm, which centers the student's approach, centers the student understanding of Caribbean, its history, its philosophy, its religion. I don't think I know you're doing theology, so yeah, no, and I oftentimes said that Caribbean studies is absolutely not Caribbean Thought. Caribbean studies does not provide a philosophical approach to Caribbean. Caribbean studies is just Caribbean studies. It's not Caribbean Thought. So I completely disagree with the fact that you got credit for this course, but they already gave you the credit. But I think you should do the course though. You should, if you want, if you need an extra credit, you should do the course because it will challenge you. Because Caribbean thought is also provides, it's interdisciplinary, it's history, it's philosophy, it's theology, and it's critical thinking as well. So you should do Caribbean thought. Okay? All right? Yes?
Okay.
Yes, you should do the course, man. But I'm gonna begin my presentation today.
This
I
is
dub
the
it. I
Neoliberal
only have
Round
what 10
Podcast.
minutes. Oh my God! Erica said that I have 30 minutes and I have not. I'm supposed to be talking about the power of general studies. And by the way, that was just the conversation we just had. Actually, gave you an insight into the power of general studies because you talk about the fact that you did Caribbean studies, which brushes or barely touches general studies. Caribbean thought is really an interdisciplinary study. And that's what general studies really is. It's really interdisciplinary. Okay? But I want to begin I want to talk about the power of general studies, preparing the mind for a complex world. And I want to begin by saying that life, if we are honest about it, is really about people. People and how people relate to one another. Again, life is about people and how people relate to one another. Yet, life is also something else. It is what you make of it, or what you allow others to make of it for you. Let that percolate. Let that percolate, because that is profound. I said, life is about people and how people relate. Yet, life is what you make of it or you allow others to make of it for you. We're talking about the dynamics that we live in now, the dynamic of life. It is either made for you or not. But we talk about that in Caribbean Talk a little bit. Okay. But the next thing is that realization about life did not come to me overnight. It came through experience, travel, struggle, and most importantly through the kind of thinking that general studies encourages. The kind of thinking that general studies encourages. So today I want to share my journey with you, and through that journey show you why general studies is one of the most valuable foundations you can have for life. So first I want to begin my journey. My journey began in Jamaica. I came to Jamaica Theological Seminary in 1999 with one clear goal. And of course, although I'm 46, but I look like I'm 25, and all my friends are in their 20s. But anyways. But I came to Jamaica with Theological Seminary with one clear goal. I wanted to become a pastor, and theology was my focus, and ministry was my dream. But at some point, I asked myself an important question. What if life changes? What if the path I planned for myself does not unfold exactly the way I expect? Because you see, life is unpredictable. It has twists, turns, and surprises. So I decided to broaden my preparation, and I pursued counseling alongside theology. And at the time, it seemed like a small decision, but in hindsight, it was one of the most important decisions of my life, because it opened my mind to something powerful. The world, and this is what it opened my mind to, and I wrote this. Yesterday I sat down and I said, this is what, and I'm happy that I'm doing this, but it opened my mind to something powerful. The world cannot be understood through a single discipline. The world cannot be understood through a single discipline. That's why I am so energetic with knowledge, and I've discovered so many different things and ways and rethink so many things. What general studies really is. General studies is often misunderstood. Some people think it is vague or unfocused. But the truth is the opposite. General studies is the art of thinking across disciplines. Again, it is what? The art of thinking across disciplines. And Caribbean thought, the course that I teach, is the art of thinking across disciplines within the Caribbean. That provides an African-centered approach, which we call the Afrocentric paradigm. It is part of what we call the liberal arts tradition, a tradition that values philosophy, history, religion, ethics, psychology, and the humanities. And why does this matter? It matters because the real world is not divided into neat academic boxes. The problems we face today, which includes poverty, inequality, climate change, politics, culture, religion, wars, are interconnected problems. Say, for example, I can have a discussion about the war and what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Russia, with Ukraine, what's going on in terms of China want to start a war with Taiwan. To understand them requires interdisciplinary thinking, and general studies teaches you to think broadly, to analyze complex problems, to understand different perspectives, and to connect ideas across fields. Essentially, it prepares you not just for a job, but for a life in a complex world. A life in a complex world. So the question is, so I'm going to move to the next point. I want to talk about how general studies opened doors in my career. How it opened doors in my career. Because I studied theology and counseling, and I developed skills that allowed me to move into several different roles. And in Jamaica, I worked with the National Youth Service as a counseling officer at some point. And later I became involved in youth development and mentoring, working with programs like JAMVAT. I was very involved in JAMVAT at NYS, and also ministries that focused on empowering people. Say, for example, Renewed Ministries through Courtney Richards and so on, while at JTS. These roles required more than theology. They require understanding human behavior, psychology, social systems, culture, and leadership. So general studies had already given me the intellectual flexibility to move across those spaces. And so later I lived and worked in Cayman Islands and eventually emigrated to the United States. Now, and that was in 2009. Now, every new place introduced me to new cultures, new ideas, new challenges. But because my education trained me to think broadly, I was able to navigate those worlds. So it brings me to point 4, which is becoming a world citizen. And the point that general studies helped me to become something important in the modern world. Again, general studies helped me to become something important in the modern world, which is a world citizen. You see, when you move between countries, Jamaica, Cayman, the US, you quickly learn that people are different yet also deeply familiar. You learn to appreciate diversity or diversity, whichever way you want to pronounce it. You learn to listen. You learn to see the world from perspectives beyond your own. And that perspective later allowed me to work in many different fields: ministry, youth development, banking. I've worked as a banker before, social services, public health, media, and publishing. And so today I run a media company, host a podcast, write books. I have a book that's about to come out in April, towards the end of April, which is entitled Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, Unfair Competition, and the Death of Nations, which allows me to work in public health management and to hold the job I have today, which is intense and hectic. That versatility is not accidental. It is the fruit of interdisciplinary thinking. Next point I want to talk about is discovering the world through education. My intellectual journey continued in the United States. I eventually studied interdisciplinary studies at University of Penn, which is an Ivy League institution. And interestingly, I never planned to go there. A friend of mine really convinced me. When I came to the US, I applied to Temple. I got into Temple University and Drexel to do my master's. I'd already finished went to UWI and did a master's of arts in philosophy. I came here and a friend of mine wanted me to apply. So you should apply to UWI, to UPenn. And I said to him, I'll never get into an Ivy League school. You must be crazy. He said, you have to, because you're from Jamaica, you have interdisciplinary thinking, you're a thinker, you're a writer, you belong in that environment. So I applied, wrote an essay, and the university responded with a challenge. They said, come to the school. They loved the essay. They said, come to the school. Hold on a second, I'm hearing some noise. Hold on, just 1 second, please. I'm happy I stopped. I was upstairs and downstairs was wide open and I heard movements. So I'm happy I addressed that. But let me continue with what I was saying.
Excuse me just a moment, Mr. McKenzie.
Yes.
Miss Duncan. Are you here to live? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Continue.
Yes, I know we said 30 minutes, but I have another 15 minutes to go and I'm done. Is that okay? That's okay, guys? Erica, Eric? I should ask you, is that okay with you? I can wrap up in about 10 minutes. All right? How that sound? Good? You guys are all right so far? All right, okay. O'Neill says, all right, cool. Okay, let me just continue with what. So I'm telling you the story of how I got into University of Penn. I didn't know I was going to get in. They said I thought it was an Ivy League college way above my head, but wrote an essay. They loved the essay, and they said, we'll make you a provisional student. You have 6 months in which to get all A's and to get recommendations from your professors. I accepted the challenge. I said, oh, I'm Jamaican. I can do anything. Okay. That experience, to be honest, the experience expanded I was able to beat the challenger. I was able to get all A's. I got all A's and got great recommendations from my professors, and I became a fully fledged student. And after I finished my master's, my master's at Penn, they asked me to stay on for another master's, an advanced master's, which is the Master of Philosophy. But that experience that experience really expanded my intellectual horizons even further. And today I continue that journey through doctoral work, exploring civilization, culture, and power structures in the world. Which brings me to the next point, seeing the world more clearly. One of the most powerful things general studies does is teach you to question assumptions. Which the Caribbean thought is almost like, it's really challenged your thinking. And we live in a society, we in Jamaica, we have inherited colonial thinking. A kind of thinking that allows us to look within ourselves with disdain, with malady. But that's for another class and another subject. But one of the most powerful general studies, to be true, if truth be told, it teaches you to question assumptions. It does. And for example, many of us have grown up hearing subtle messages about identity and value, such as nothing black is good. These ideas are not accidental. They are products of history, power, and ideology. And through interdisciplinary thinking, through history, philosophy, sociology, and cultural studies, you begin to see how such narratives were construed or constructed. And once you see them, you can challenge them. Because education becomes a tool for liberation. And the thinking nothing black no good will lead you down a rocky road, because nothing black is good. African people, or African Americans, Caribbean people there, or whatever, black, dark people are black. And then they come with the conclusion is, therefore, they're not good. Because it's, it follows a premise. If you did philosophy and did logical thinking, or well, we say thinking certain logical ways, which starts from a premise, secondary thought, and a concluding thought. It sounds sound. Nothing black is good. African Americans are people who are black. Therefore, African Americans are people of that nature, of that dispensation, is not good. That is a deductive argument. That is a deductive argument from deduction. It sounds good on the face of it, but the premise is wrong. It's a fallacious statement, but it's part of that philosophy. And so, through interdisciplinary thinking, you begin to see narratives and how they're constructed. And once you see them, you can challenge them. And therefore, education becomes a tool of liberation. And general studies allows us to break free from what I call parochial thinking, narrow thinking, confined by limited perspectives. Instead, it encourages expansive thinking. It's expansive thinking. This is not a class for me to delve into some of these concepts, but in Caribbean Thought we delve in some of these, because I would love to talk some more about that and talk about doctrinal thinking, and so on, but I won't talk about that right now. But why this matters today? It matters today because the world is changing faster than ever. Think about how humanity has evolved. Once we walked everywhere. Yes? Again, think about the question is, I said, why does this matter today? And I say to you, the world is changing faster than ever. Think about how humanity has evolved today. Once we walked everywhere. Then we rode horses. Then we drove cars. Then we flew airplanes. Now we are developing self-driving cars and artificial intelligence. You see, innovation happens when people think across disciplines. Science interacts with philosophy. Technology intersects with ethics. Economics overlaps with politics and culture. The future belongs to those who can connect ideas, not just memorize information. So, leads me to my next point, which is the human purpose of education. And I've oftentimes said this. At its heart, general studies is about the human condition. I've oftentimes said liberal studies lifts up issues of ethics and human value. Ethics and human value. It explores ethics, values, culture, belief, identity. Religion asks moral questions. Philosophy explores meaning. Psychology studies the mind. And of course, one of my favorite psychologists is Descartes. And of course, Descartes is a kind of philosophy as well. Science advances human knowledge. So together, these disciplines help us understand what it means to be human. And that is why the humanities remain so important. They remind us that progress must always be guided by ethics and human dignity. Ninth is, and the next point I'm bringing up here is the ninth point actually, rising above life's limitations. As immigrants, well, I'm an immigrant, living in the US, as an immigrant, as people from small nations like Jamaica, I sometimes feel that the world is structured against us. And I say that in the book. The first book I wrote is entitled Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty, and Resistance. And I make a profound point in that book, in the opening chapters of the book, about the immigrant is seen like a monster with with horns and two heads and big teeth, seeking to kill and to destroy. But he's only good for cleaning neoliberal waste. That is a profound point. It's a profound point. Education, really, what it does is education, especially broad interdisciplinary education, helps navigate those systems that put immigrants in certain ways. It teaches us how power works. It teaches us how systems function. It helps us recognize opportunities, and it equips us to rise above limitations. My final thought is, when people ask about the value of general studies, I say this. General studies does not simply prepare you for a career. It prepares you for life. It teaches you to think broadly, to see the world clearly, to appreciate people and cultures, to challenge injustice, and to imagine solutions for tomorrow's problems. Because ultimately, life is still about people, and when we understand people, we understand the world. Thank you, and that's the power of general studies. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, and I don't know if you have any questions that you want to ask, but yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Erica, for allowing me to speak.
No question for me. A job well done.
Thank
you. So very passionate about the subject.
Yeah, well, this is how I teach. I mean, this is how when I'm teaching this is how I teach. I'm very passionate about life, and I'm passionate about the subject matter. So yeah.
You say you wrote a book on Caribbean thought. You said something about writing a book.
Yes, there's a book that is. I mean, it's a Caribbean perspective. It's neoliberalism, globalization, income inequality, poverty, and resistance. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, so on and so forth. And there's a second book that's on the verge of coming out, which is book 2 to that book, but it gives you a wider perspective. It looks at the black position in the world today. So that neoliberalism, globalization, income inequality, poverty, and resistance. It's an Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's us, yeah, and it's in Audible ebook, hardcover, paperback as well.
Oh.
Yeah, check it out.
I assume this is the book you teach from, and we were supposed to get that book.
Well, in Caribbean Thought, I encourage my students to get that book, yes, because I think it's a recommended book for the course, and then alongside other books that is important for this course. But that's a good book. And another book that's coming out is Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, which I believe is a book that is good for critical thinking, developing one's critical thinking. I define neoliberalism, and it's myself and another professor, Martin Oppenheimer, that wrote that book, who is Professor Emeritus of Sociology from Rutgers and UPenn. And so it's a very good book. You can think about getting it as well, but it's not available yet. It should be available by at least April 24 or something like that. They're working on it right now. So.
This is the Neoliberal Round Podcast.
I don't know how much. I don't know if you.